when we've been on the road and we've been talking to whether it's physicians or we've been talking to technologists or we've been speaking about doxology, the thing that we hear over and over and over again is how do we save people time, and how do we take the time that it takes for a intake team or an onboarding team to get the right data and to transition into all the different systems that you need it. So if it comes in via fax, how do we trim down that time to get it into the EMR and to generate all those summaries? And the things that resonate on the technology side in that part of the workflow more than anything is the speed and accuracy that we can provide customized summaries and the hyper customization, the ability for what used to take, and you could probably quote this better than I can when you've done consulting, but the amount of time and money and resources people would make on a settings page where you would say things like, I want to see something in bullet points, and somebody else wants to see it in a timeline, and somebody else wants to see it in a narrative form. And in my previous life, I spent probably close to $1 million on settings pages where people could toggle settings on and off and say, I want this and I want that. And we now live in a world where I change a prompt with 3 words and I get a different response because it starts to sound and act like me. And that saves an enormous amount of time when it comes to development. It saves an enormous amount of time in hyper customization. So the stuff that gets people really excited are how can we deliver an AI-enabled tool that's hyper customized, hyper personalized to the physicians that we work with, and how do we save people time?
Andrew, for you, what are some technologies that currently exist that you're super impressed by out there in the healthcare space?
I'll go back to the personalization thought here for a moment. We've seen a ton of really cool stuff come up in the patient engagement and the patient portals and things like that. Those types of tools that make it easier to educate patients on what they've been diagnosed with, what their treatment plans are, help them to put things into common language that in areas that can be really scary, or it can be challenging to know what to expect when you're going into, whether you're going in for treatments or you're going in, you get a new diagnosis and things like that. And that's where I think there's an interesting cross-section of where you see tools like doxology and you see an EMR and you see these AI scribe tools and you see all these things. You have all these different sources of data, and where we feel strongly about sitting in the middle of that and being able to pull data from a lot of different sources and land it into a place that allows the practice to be able to own their data and drive better patient engagement. So for example, in that, to me, it looks like, all right, I have this from your medical history and I'm going to send you a survey that I want you to answer before you walk into my clinic. But we've all been there and asked to answer those surveys that's got 35 questions in it, and 27 of them you already know the answer to, but 8 of them you actually need me to do something with. Well, with a tool like doxology, where we can pull that from your medical history, we now pre-populate that medical history. And so now we're asking you 8 questions instead of 35. Driving up patient engagement, driving up patient satisfaction, better outcomes, better education, right? All of this builds on itself and leads to a better patient outcome, which is ultimately what we want to see.